Tonight we are going to chat a little bit about and get vulnerable about some of the ways that we have played victim and kept ourselves in bondage.
Yeah, I'm ready to just lay it all on the line, you guys, so buckle up.
Like, yeah, no judgments. We're just here to share, like,
Absolutely.
and enjoy one another's company this evening. How have you been, Becchi, before we dive too further in? What's been going on?
How have I been? You know what's interesting is ever since we decided we were going to have this topic tonight, it's like I've been very aware of the ways that I've moved past victim mentality, but the ways that it still kind of lingers around. I feel like maybe I'm not sure how often we fully break out of that, but that there's that definitely hyper awareness that's been setting in for me about how often that is coming to the surface. And I think it's interesting that you just said about how if you had been in your old state, that it would have went this way. And I find that a lot of things that I still feel a bit of that victim mentality around in my present life are things that are a result of things that I chose before, things I didn't do before, ways I didn't show up for myself before. So it's really interesting when you're talking about that whole woe is me. I think a lot of times we think that that's all that victim mentality is just that feeling of woe is me. And if we are looking at ourselves going, well, I'm not that person, I don't really complain about my circumstances, I don't really feel like I fit in that category, there's a lot more to that, right? Than just feeling like woe is me when we're talking about the victim mindset.
There is, because heck, we'll dive in. Here's a perfect example. One that I know so many of us get wrapped up in a circle in is when it comes to relationships. I don't care if it's a lover style, mother, father, brother, sister, whatever. Relationships. And there's that intimate boundary happening in life and something breaks it, right? And I have found it is so easy to there's no one says that you can't feel how you feel about what has happened. But so often we'll get caught in those feelings. And then they become this really cool coat that now it's the new norm, right? And we don't even realize it, but every conversation is even creating space for us to keep, oh yes, here's the example. You know, me and my ex-fiance, there was a lot of stuff that, and still to this day, there's a lot of stuff I have not said that happened and probably won't, just because it's irrelevant. But there was one day that I just was like, shh, right? And everything that I said, people were commenting and they were like, oh my God, you didn't deserve that. Da-da-da-da-da, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And don't get me wrong, I told his shit and I told my shit. It wasn't just but it was just still like, oh my God, like the fact that you even had to react, da-da-da, so, okay, oh, great. But what does that do? That creates it beds and comforts that ego. And it helps them keep feeling like, you're right, I didn't deserve that. While blocking out that whole faction of, but you were there. You are a part of creation. You could have done something different in any of those moments for a different result, but you didn't. So is it fair to keep writing all these justified of what you didn't deserve? And boy, when it hit like that, I was like, well, shit, no wonder we be sitting up in our shit for too long. It's great for people to empathize with us, but how far is that empathy getting us? Is it allowing us to move and expand? Or is it just coddling how we feel about what we've gone through? And in that moment, it was so funny because as I was hearing that breakdown happen, I was like, but if I was to have this just a conversation with someone, they would immediately want to say, oh, why would you victim blame? I can't believe they went through that. But I'm not a tree. I could have moved at any moment. So is it victim blaming, or is it a conscious push out of a comfort zone that isn't serving one? But I get it, because when we're not ready to receive that or move, then it's an attack. It's an attack. It's an attack on our character, our feelings, our everything. But it's also keeping us in bondage the longer we want to identify with what we feel we do or don't deserve until we really bust it apart.
Okay, so now you're in this space, and this sets you up now for future you to not be faced again with this victim mentality, because this is something that I'm realizing too, is that there's times where I'm in a space where I'm like, why isn't this experience? So like your experience is lining up for you, but then something stepped in that was, like a ripple effect or something that happened before. But now I'm looking at places in my own life where I'm like, this hasn't happened for me yet. Why hasn't this happened for me yet? It's not necessarily that this thing, that somebody else like prevented this thing from happening, but that I prevented myself from doing the thing that would have led me to the place I wanted to be right now. So, I could have stepped out of my own way in so many situations. And right now I'm sitting here thinking, why hasn't this happened? This hasn't come to fruition yet. I know that this is my passion, but this thing didn't, take off the way that I wanted. And the truth of that is that a lot of it is me, the whatever it is, the less evolved me, the more fearful me, that was standing in my own way of doing the things that would have put me in a place right now to not be sitting in any victim mentality. And so in that moment, I have to realize there are aspects of me, earlier me, that are impacting where I am now. And so I love that you were able to look at that and go, okay, I'm aware that I have made this progress to get here. And I also know I'm fully ready to step into this space now.
Thank you for spending your time here with us today. For the full playback, visit the description for the link. Continue to elevate and mind shift. You hold the key to your release.